So I still love that side of it, but it's about just authenticity, you know. That's what I liked about what you're doing. You know, you're really trying to get down good because it's trying to dial into things that can help people.
Hey everyone, don't forget to subscribe, like, share.
The old resonator guitar, always good to look ahead. I love these. Exactly what was happening, anticipated it, it happens, until, you know, I heard, saw my name on like a at risk.
You saw around the corner.
Yeah, but I could tell from that first time, it was really weird. So, you know, I really, from that point, you know, had to parachute out, land somewhere else. So I really learned over the next 15 years how to feel the pressure of what was coming. Is what you promise, you know. I mean, if I need $100,000 base salary, man, just to clear our mortgage and everything, I'm like, I got to bring some money to the table, you know. So that was the case a lot of the time. Sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it's like the company's a startup, and I'm out there promising to like companies like IBM, like, all right, we'll have this video player in play in the next couple months. So do a deal with us in fourth quarter, and then the thing dies on the vine, like the head engineer leaves. And then, so then my reputation got like, you know, affected from some of the startups that I was with. Some really prestigious, Pepsi.
Yeah.
I had Pepsi as a client. That was kind of given to me from this girl, Kathy Sheets. My only ally at all of NBC at one time. Swear to God, she was awesome. She always looked out for me. She'd take me on clients, out to client meetings with Pepsi, and you know, go out to these dinners at the on top of the Rock, you know. So it was good living, man. It was like I was a rock star as a sales rep. I was a sales rep living as a rock star in every shape of the in every way. So it was great, but it was it's authenticity over time is really what it came down to. I was selling BS and you know, bullshit you hear, you know. And I always hated hearing that, like, you're a salesman. I mean, I am a salesman. Oh, you're always a salesman, right? But like just being selling something that's not yours, it's someone else's, goes to their bottom line, and half the time it's BS, and that's advertising. So that's kind of like what I saw, what I was involved with, and it just gets to the point where, like, I remember telling clients, like, they grow, tech companies grow through acquisition, and just like Enron back in the day, they never integrated any of the billing systems together, so it was a nightmare. And that's what happens here. They buy all these small companies to try to sell something new and be unique in the market, but they do not think about the integration of it. And they got to hire people and waste money. So I was kind of like just part of it. You had these Columbia University grads that would do these spreadsheets that were keeping track of all the inventory, and I'm the one that finds the error in the formula, you know? So that's how, I want to say hard I worked, but, you know, I was always keeping my head above water, drinking out of a fire hose, as Tom O'Brien would say, a guy I worked for. That's what he said the first day. Get ready to start drinking through a fire hose. How much work is going to come in here.
So this is your time at NBC.
Yeah, and then after, same thing, just different companies going out and finding a way to sell it, present it, and understand by having the meetings with them, getting the questions you need quick. You know, that's what I got, you know, good at, is being able to read the room, find out who makes the decision, find out like what their process is, what they've used before, know who the companies are that they may have worked for advertising. They're spending a lot of money, and then come up with something new all in that same meeting, or at least get them hooked. But I never did it conventionally. I always just did it like people think I'm crazy. I walk in and it's like, start laughing, or you know, start from the back and go forward. You know, like you ever tell a joke and like just like the punchline, like you let it hang on and you're like, what? just to purposely like mess with people. So I did that, and it kind of like got people off guard. I'm not gonna, and because I could never like read a canned script, and whenever I tried to, I would get yelled at. Going back way back when, like the only thing I remember that was a script was this collection service that I worked for when I was really young, and I sold a group of neurologists, and there was a pool outside at their office, and there were all these girls swimming, and I'm reading him this letter, courtesy notice. Our client has requested that we contact you regarding your overdue payment. We realize it could be an oversight on your part, not a willful disregard of any assumed obligation. If this is a legitimate misunderstanding, please contact your creditor and discuss it. And these guys are just looking at me because I'm looking out the window at these girls, I'm still in college and they're just like, all right, man. So, but that's the only script I ever remembered or ever try to follow. I love that. I love that.
So, oh my goodness, this is good because, this is really describing the time period between 2004, 2008-ish, maybe a little bit after. We haven't really got into the after that fact yet in detail.
Yeah, and it was all the same except what happens when you choose an industry. Right, so this is kind of like, and there's technical capability, and then there's the other, and just because I never had any real training. I mean, I had management training from as like GE because we were owned by GE at the time. So I got a lot of things. Yeah, at NBC.
Okay.
So I'm just going back. So that helped me get a couple of the other jobs after the fact, and then I just had to kind of go with the industry. So the next real big thing was like before social was out, YouTube was still YouTube. Google hadn't bought them yet. And there was an industry that I kind of got involved with that there was a time, this is kind of technical, but there was video player that's on a website. You could put a YouTube video code into the website on the page. And when someone watches it, it will accrue a view on the YouTube page, on YouTube where the video is originally located. So think about this. If we know that we can get 1 million people to watch this video in 3 days, we'll just scale it, drive views into the video, like a paywall it's called. But we were charging 20 cents a view. Someone would spend $500,000 to get 1 million views. And we knew if entertainment, we could do it for about 100,000, and it would take 3 days, and they'd have at least 500,000 views, video views, and that was the big thing. So I made so much money from that. Things. So a big industry was developed. Niche, but
no, I wouldn't say so much. I mean, that's kind
of It was when the pre-roll autoplay became just too annoying. Like all of a sudden a video comes up and there's 2 videos and it's like a pharmaceutical 60-second with all that stuff. So it was very good for clients. And even though a lot of the views we were bought somewhere else and driven to the landing page, still created the buzz because everyone wanted to get 1 million views, 2 million views. But then Google buys out YouTube, right? Google buys YouTube, and at that time, they shut off the switch. So I remember having a client that spent $200,000, and like the weekend went through, and it was Tuesday, and I knew they called, and they were concerned because they only had like 10 views. And we got to get back to you. We're not sure what's happening. And then a few days later, we get the press release from Google that to the whole industry that they changed the algorithm. So that whole industry was vaporized, called social video, because we could put it on blogs, we could put it everywhere, have influencers read it, post it on their blogs, and it would all count. It was amazing. So that was a big scramble. You got to reinvent yourself, So the companies I was with were smaller, so I was really playing an active role in reshaping and keeping clients happy while we're figuring out what we're going to do next, other than close the doors.
So you're working heavily you're that outward facing, almost company face to a degree. You're trying to, make the client happy, understand that, hey, when you're meeting that client, this is what you understand to be true.
Yeah.
Now, in between what you understand to be true into I'm meeting with the client, I sign the dotted lines, whatever the contract may be, things could change, like you said, drastically, especially in a digital world.
Yeah, and I had so many great clients like Sailor Jerry Rum. We did this whole influencer thing where we had 10 people, influencers that were kind of like in the same genre as the skateboard guy. And it was a piece of content that was made. And it was amazing. All this video of great people, authentic video. That's what I loved about it. It was no more 30-second TV spot that's all canned. Like, you see a Burger King commercial and they're all smiling, eating their plastic burger. I mean, it's like, that's not how life is. So I kind of look at that standpoint, and that's why I liked some of the other companies later on that I was involved with, because it was more authentic, influencer-related type of content. Where people would just be like, hey, unbox therapy. Guy gets all these different boxes with new gadgets in there, tells it what it's all about. And so that's still what I only like. I won't watch commercials anymore.
Well, I definitely want to continue this conversation, but, media has shifted so much. I mean, the marketing scheme, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but how many folks are actually watching, TV, let alone commercials on the TV nowadays as compared to the time frame when that was just burger?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I would say that with streaming, I've noticed that there's certain, like if you have a LG phone or a LG TV, they have their own channels, often for free, and you'll notice that there's double the frequency of commercials that are in there. There's no regulations around that yet. It's still out there. I mean, television is still a $100 billion business. I don't know, I don't have the exact numbers now because I haven't been that close to it.
Yeah.
But it's still the king. It's still the king.
Yeah.
That's where all the money goes. And you have some stray companies that will only do digital or only do social. But any company that needs scale and is a national brand, it's got to be part of it. The rates change, right? The number of people that watch it change. They love pandemics. Pandemics got the numbers way up. I don't know the exact numbers. And there's also some thought that, I think they can affect the GDP of like the Northeast. They all of a sudden the big snowstorm on a Friday, and sure enough, everyone's out at the stores buying their rakes and their shovels, whatever. I'm not saying that there are those that are steering it that way, but it would make sense. I would do it if I could. Just with the targeting, with just how much it influences people. But it's gotten. We were talking about it earlier. The data that is used in digital is insane.
So you're at the frontier, yourself and maybe a few others within NBC at this time. You're pioneering what this really looks like. You're shaping it throughout early 2005, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
You're shaping it. You're getting the input from the audience. You're getting the data. You're now tweaking. You're tweaking your media to fit your audience. You understand that maybe some asset class doesn't really fit a genre of people.
Right. Yep.
This is all happening in real time. There's no script to this.
Right.
Kind of what you're figuring out. So then I'm just curious. We fast forward to today, and it's like we have so much data.
Oh, I know.
You could target any type of audience that you want.
Yeah. So all the the permissions that people sign up, click off on. You talk about the DMPs. Going back a few years. You go onto a DSP with your ads, and you can do all this kind of behavioral targeting. That was years ago. Now, like even on Facebook, you can use a platform like Facebook or any of the social, and really get down to any kind of behavioral targeting, geofencing. That's something new. You go past the McDonald's, and within 100 feet, they'll have an offer pop up. But then all the other sets of data that are used, And I find like example is CVS buys Aetna, back a few years ago now. How could that not be a breach? The fact that CVS also has an ad network, So you're really telling me they're not taking all the customer profile data and funneling it in, call it confidentially or without name. So that's like everything, so it's pretty crazy. And that's good for some people. But like we were talking, what's real and what's not real is the question. And people can be very swayed. And there's so much targeting is insane. That's all people are doing.
So that's the other thing is, so really now, because of those early beginnings of the marketing companies, they have the ability to really sway opinions. And in just very, very slowly, but they can do it, surely. Right? It's a slow-moving ship. Yeah. Turn it.
Yeah. I would say that the only one I think it's like I remember doing some work with the political agencies, and they really cared a lot about voter registration. If they could get someone's voter registration, which they could, then that's how they would target it, because then there's no guessing. Now you had the big TV ads that would run the big reach and frequency, but the heart of it was based on having that type of data. And I'm sure now digital has kind of can do any kind of targeting, because they can go after sentiment of customer profile or client profile, who their audience is, double targeting groups, regions.
This is amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So now you start getting involved with some of the big name clients you were talking about, some C-level Fortune 500 companies. How does that kind of spawn, and how are you interacting with these guys?
Yeah, I'm interacting, and again, now I'm going, at this time, like 2018 or so, is when I just couldn't. I was working for a company called Hearst, which is the largest media company in the world. That was the biggest joke, where I was. As far as offerings to clients, I'm just being brutally honest. It was like scratched together, and it was at that point where I remember being out with a client. I'm like, I can't even recommend this to you. It's not going to work. I know it's not going to work, and I didn't get along well with the people there, and I just and again I could see the HR lady. I'm like, and I had this one guy that's puts me on a PIP, performance plan. I'm like, really? So he's like, okay, we got to meet. I'm like, it's just you and I in here anyway. I'm like, it's just you and I in here anyway. And, so do whatever you have to do. I'm like, all right. And, but I just couldn't be involved in it anymore,
So he's putting you on the PIP because you're being honest with your customers.
Yeah, and just because of revenue. I didn't have any revenue either. But I wasn't brought in. Things change. It's like a bait and switch. They bring you on, attract you. Seemed good at the time. But anyway, so that was just one blip on the radar. But the last company I was with was a company called Sherlock, right? And that's when IBM was kind of like a tech partner with us. Not really, they didn't spend a lot of revenue. They gave us some cash. But it was like I was the first person hired for the company to figure out what direction we're going to go in. So that was really attractive to me. They just said, okay, here's the app, here's what it does. We're going to try to integrate machine learning. We need apps, we need website. How are we going to market it? Who are we going to talk to? So within a year, we had beta tests out on it. But I get them into Ford. We're still, we have 2 dealerships, and I get us flown to Ford in Detroit. Just be like, you know what? This will give us a whole new perspective. And, of course, the guy was great, and they went through it, and it was really more to get feedback. But they're writing down $500,000 for estimate for forecasting. I'm like, they're not going to close, But it gives us a really good opportunity to talk to someone that could make a decision like that, right? So that was, so I mean, I had that stuff, ready to go. Because I believed in it, kind of.
So that deal ends up closing.
No,
roughly a year and a half later.
No, it didn't. That one did not close.
Okay.
That was I had them as a client for 10 years before that. So I closed. That took first time I closed for it was a year and a half. Then I ran a bunch of different things like GT at Le Mans. Ford GT was finally reintroduced. That was like a great campaign to be involved in.
Yeah.
Ford truck things. They spent a lot of money, and it was a good client to have. But now, I would never put any of their stuff. I hate all their commercials. Sorry. And if I were going to do something, and maybe they'll hear this. Maybe they'll hear this because I think Ford truck. How there's always a tough guy. I've been doing landscaping and stuff just to keep myself in shape for the last year and a half. And I'm driving around my buddy's 350 Ford. And you just think about any type of foreman on the construction site. They're like, I want you guys to get your asses back to work, all right? He gets out of the truck. He's got his coffee and his freaking gloves on, and hat. It's always a total tough guy. But then what really happens. That's why I say what happens in a Ford cab stays in a Ford cab, and when he gets in there, he's listening to Sinead O'Connor or crying to his wife, I'm sorry, baby, I'm sorry. So there's this whole perception that these dudes are so tough with their trucks, but the reality is much different. And that's kind of the only thing I would ever do with marketing and advertising is down to the bottom, authentic, which is really hard to find without some kind of attachment to it. Even influencers now, they're expecting $100,000. Kim Kardashian gets $200,000 for one post on Twitter, or it used to be like that. So it's very hard to kind of differentiate yourself as far as marketers go. But that's something that I've started to throw some ideas out. Big vodka company, staying involved with vodkas, I guess. But company, threw out a handful of ideas. Not that I'm even expecting anything from him now, but I have things that would help company V1, right?
Yeah.
Not saying I can help them, but having those conversations, that's all I want to do. I'm not trying to sell anything, because if you're doing the right things, it all follows. It follows.
It sells itself.
It'll follow. And it's just really about, for salespeople, it's about just having conversations and trying to sell nothing. And just have a conversation with someone. You don't have to be okay, I'm going to send an agenda and I'll bring my laptop and we'll do a big presentation. It's if you can get in someone's head and find out what keeps them up at night, this was told to me a long time ago, then you got a good shot. So all the formalities sometimes just get in the way, and people's eyes roll back, because I've been there. Big presentation. It's you see the guy the head guy that makes the decision, or girl, whoever, runs out of the office, sneaks out, and you're not going to get it.
Yeah, it's too much.
So I still love that side of it, but it's about just authenticity. That's what I liked about what you're doing. You're really trying to get down. I don't want to give you a plug, but seriously, no, it's good because it's trying to dial into things that can help people. And I think my stories, I have so many mistakes that I made, like everyone, but what's changed with me is I like to tell my stories. My mom loves my stories about, especially with work, old work stories. You remember when that happened? I started taking the train, and you can't take the train. Seriously, you got to have a car. I'm like, why do I need a car? I'm sitting, and just stuff like that, and all of a sudden, of course, HR's there. I've always done really well, and I've always done as hard as I can work. Has it always turned into a performance, a dollar figure for the companies? Sometimes not, but I still worked as hard as I could work, And it's just a good exercise to just put everything you have into it, and stepping outside of your comfort zone is another really big thing. the more you step into uncomfortable positions, like physically demanding or mentally challenging, you grow from that. So it's like the more you shove yourself into positions, you realize then it's not that bad anymore. And that's like good. And I think that if kids could be more like that and learn that and get that, understand mindset, but mindset is always football, like get the first down, win the game, get the Super Bowl. So it was always more cliche mindset. But when you think about it and you look at some of these other philosophies that are out there, mind over matter is like real. And mindset, if you become consciously aware of something, then that's only the time where you can start to change the way you approach it.
Hey everyone, don't forget to subscribe, like, share.
The old resonator guitar, always good to look ahead. I love these.